Listening to the planet is contact healing for the universe. We are the perfect pair of rebels, belonging and longing for that platonic rock that moves like the platelets of the skull. Such sublime dispositions, we have driven to so many edges of things, dizzy at the edge of nature's ungraspable proportions. Do you tower into the void, topple at the edge, jaw cracked and ready, or do you crawl towards the drop, raining awe so great you cower away from its immeasurable expanse? The mountain performs a magic trick, letting the meander of a river wriggle out of its hat. The head leads the body, walking the flesh transparent. Under trillions of stars, the pathos is melting. In search for gold, we lost diamonds. Years and years later, I have nothing left to refresh me. Perennial dramas, a narrative of clean archetypes instead of the small boreala of domesticity and marching the same streets over and over. Where have the weeks and months gone? All robotic, manually programmed routine responsibilities accomplished, but most likely not to the best of my ability, as I have little memory of its completion. I return at last to the sea. Ever-changing and precious, the waves beckon me, carry awakenings into space for projection, and I sense life beyond this dimension, another place full of spiral galaxies where we make different choices and life turns out differently. Death is not the end. Growing up in London and living in Edinburgh, I thrive in capitals, hunting for the wild amongst everything else that is constructed and towering above. I prefer urban spaces, but of a particular kind, places where nature is allowed in or it forces its way in. Parks, secret gardens, mini forests, islanded by the surrounding concrete. By chance, the homes I've lived in for the longest periods of my life have been situated next to a botanical garden. Kew Gardens, Benmore Gardens, and Edinburgh Botanical Garden. Now I have earned a certain penchant for exploring the liminality of semi-wild spaces within the urban. I even crave those little portals of activity in city parks, scattered across a stretch of grass, the morning Zumba class for people with disabilities, the football team from the local, the rugby team from the private schools, the lone martial artist swinging amateur weapons under a tree, the family having a picnic, the students joining out of kitchens to drink boxes of beer and kick a ball in a circle, the two Peter Pan men who spend an hour each trying to unleash their trap drone aeroplane from a tree, the boy who skips with an invisible rope, the single mother who tries to teach her kids baseball. That's me, without much knowledge of the game herself. The dog walkers and heavy thinkers, the drinkers and the teens with cheap bottles of splash and midnight graffiti. The professional tennis couple in the rented courts, all kisses and seriousness, then back to kisses, then near misses, the spirit, the air, the visibility. I am seen. We are seen. Isn't that all people want? To be seen and to matter somehow. But out in the country, you have an absence of all this cosmopolitan noise and shadow play and shifting form of physical release and community groups. You have echo and hollow nights filled with the most electric showcase of stars. You have clean air, nature untrimmed, unforced, a stark cry, mystery unraveling. But I am all of these people in the park, and I'm all of the various fashions of the landscape. The river flow, the lockable cloud, the hot rock our palm absorbs as we climb, as we mount the invisible sun with bruises on our shins. I once told you I loved you. I look for where it started, for where it was we first felt a loom into union, the decimal point of the place we met. I take the weight of difference on my shoulders, bury the treasure we borrowed before, and test the depths of the ocean. Isn't this where it all began, when we met under stereo and strobe light? Maybe it's because you visited the sea, tasted its full fathoms deep, sharp on your tongue as the summer storm fingered you awake. There are many obstacles off the land, but whoever taught me to swim showed me gravity. I wanted to be diverted from and towards vacuousness. I was scanning for signals, for gold dust in the gift boxes from my ancestors. Mostly, I am an overheated carburetor, a tornado captured on film. I wake up thirsty. Just as I settled here, I will settle elsewhere. The slower we are, the more time we have together. This is where we can find the eternal in the mundane, all those endless horizons where cities end and the wilderness begins. Then when the sea touches everything, all the times you told me you loved me over and over, the potency and urgency of it all. We return to where we started, to where it was we first felt safe. The place where we instructed each other into one another's existence, because ultimately, some things need to change sometimes. My quest was to unravel against the unknown, to unravel my unknown, to embrace the far away and live in the absolute axes of the moment. I sleep with rocks and crystals, each one doused in the energies and properties of the country they were found in. As Walt Whitman said, it is the artist's task to bear witness to the universe, and I believe also to align the spirit with the sense of self, even if that means my lessons are mostly loquacious, or I'm met in the future as a skeleton clutching a rusted revolver. With the dread of impermanence at the finish line, sacrificing loneliness for love is a compromise. I hold the gambit and gamble of the spruce and summit. I sit in the memory and endorphin of adventure. I took a forest fawn in my mouth once, a mountain explorer and guide, turned him into a sleeping soldier, spilt his seed back into the soil, and watched ants and other insects circumnavigate his skin. Acts of eroticism in nature show me only the decomposition of death. I wiped what is traced of me, what is traced of you, a tattoo on a spider web, or age-old hidden letters and poems mummified in library books. Loneliness is a lifetime goal if applied correctly, where words find pleasure to show me the witching hour. The spirit of peacocks prance the room in circles, knocking down beads with their spawned feathers. Under circumstances of emotional chaos, we find a way to rise and continue. The mortal's curse, our widespread resilience. Learn to calm the world and those waves of your inner storms with the same blue anthropic lightning and meta miracle they arrived in. You will find me in neon when I was painted in the dark. You will find me in the fabric of disaster. Trees know the truth. They know longevity. They know how to shyly crown across the sky and barely touch. Headlights and headliners, the modern world crashes in, lives fast. This is the defiant grace of a currency of longing for quick fixes that mark the malignancy of disappointment. The barometers of bone and tissue between us, a vasculum of hope propped for the perpendicular of a philosopher's whisper. You have to move within to move. Things rot in my mouth, teeth crack and decay, tongues constantly probing splinter and crumb. Things fall apart no matter how long we spend all night raving under one roof. Shutting off our sensibilities to the natural world, to the point of oblivion about extinction, is to deny the spirit of its life force. The body then becomes imprinted with slow-paced malformations. Listening to the planet is contact healing for the universe. Let's all enjoy the miraculous properties of breath, the carnal antiquities of generated touch, desire to stay optimally optimistic and pay attention to the wild. Walk the path with a deep sense of knowing.